Start a small business. No need to work 40, 50 hours a week, slaving your life away. Obtain financial freedom, be your own boss, and create your own destiny. Moguls are the new superstars. The path to country club membership and a leased Mercedes-Benz is paved in gold as you take your business trips to Orlando or Vegas. Validation from your in-laws is just an LLC and Facebook business page away. At least, that's what they tell you anyways. Through social media, websites, and targeted ads, you're sold an image. Small business owners seem to walk on water. You'd think you're the last person on earth working a regular job with a regular boss. But there's trouble in paradise, and its name is in over your head. People start looking to start their own business, don't know what they don't know. But that's why we started our Small Business Confidential podcast, to share what we've learned from years of experience. There's not a lot of people in on this, so remember, dear podcast listeners, you heard it here first, off the record, on the QT, and very hush-hush.
Hi, everybody. This is Mike Reilly with controller of Reilly Painting and Company, Brook Reilly, as he's wrapping up the year end. Both of us are going to talk about where did the money go? And I've been my contracting business of 50 years, 1974. I've had many horrible experiences in the late 80s, 90s, early 90s when I had a wife, mouths to feed, Christmas was coming up, and the slowest time of the year in January. And what I thought I was going to have in the bank, I didn't. And now I'm looking at robbing Peter to pay Paul. The old cash flow game of spreadsheeting. Who has to wait a couple weeks? Who gets paid? Payroll gets met. Bonuses go out. And hopefully there's money left for the owner and his family. So with that, for some primal thoughts, let me turn it over to Brook. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think, I've learned past couple of years going through this process at the end of the year, it's always best to hope for the best, but plan for the worst. Meaning, like in cash flow, if we've got a couple of jobs that are just kind of hanging out there, we're expecting a check. We're not 100% sure it's going to be coming in. Just kind of assume that it's not going to be coming in. Unless it's some mammoth, 5-figure amount, then we'll obviously be all over the foreman to make sure that gets collected. And just doing your prep now, where you get a spreadsheet out, you're looking at, all right, have a running total of how much the bonuses are going to be, how much vacation time each person has, looking at the bills we have to pay in the next couple of weeks, as we look at our taxes, bonuses, vacation time, what we have to pay to our vendors, the Home Depots, the Sherwins, the Lowe's, the Chase cards. So you can never have enough information. And then once you, at least what helps me, obviously, is you just put all the information down and then you just organize it on a spreadsheet. Now, I'm lucky enough to have some people assisting me with that to kind of cross-check certain things. But cash flow this time of the month is as crucial as it's ever been. I know last year was stressful just because we were really banking on a couple houses closing, and closing got delayed. That threw a huge wrench in cash flow, but luckily, you're smart, we're a smart company, we have ways that we've saved, so it wasn't life or death. But
I think the most important thing is at the end of the year, this is when you test your models. So if you're making money every month through your, let's say in the properties, you figured I'm going to have, and we do a lot of short-term rentals. I'm going to have, my goal is to have 10 months at $5,000 a month for a property on the short term. So that's 50,000. And you're watching your revenues throughout the year. So obviously, as you get to the last quarter in October, are you going to hit that number? So it's not like you wake up in December and realize, hey, I don't have any money, or I didn't make what I thought. You're seeing whether you're going to make that destination, which is money in the bank, bills paid, or not. It's sort of like you're driving from, my favorite analogy, you're driving from Cleveland to LA. Okay, well, it's not a 1-year trip unless you're walking, but the reality is along that car ride, you're going to be at certain points at certain times. So obviously, if you plan on leaving Cleveland, going to LA, you're going to do a stopover in Chicago. It depends on what your route's taking. So I should be in Chicago by the end of the day. You're allowing for traffic. You're allowing for this. Next day, I'm going, Chicago to, I don't know, Nebraska to Colorado to, maybe you're going to stop over at Arizona. But you have your whole plan there, and you're watching how you're going. And so if you end up a couple days late in LA, that's not a surprise. I mean, the trip's taken longer. Similarly, with your properties, you're looking at how much you're making every month, rents and expenses. Was there a surprise expense? New hot water tank, back roof caved in on the garage. You have to fix that. Got to replace the furnace. The usual shit that always happens. Maybe you'll luck out 1 year. Your expenses are actually less than you thought. Well, trust me, that luck's not going to hold. Okay, for the next year. It's sort of like football, where, yeah, you had a great year because every time the ball was fumbled, either by your own players or the opposing players, it always ended up in your in your hands. Well, next year it might not be the same. So, shit happens. But this is where your models are tested. And this is where you're getting a clear-eyed view of whether this property is actually making money or not. For properties that have long-term tenants, did you do an inspection on that tenant twice a year where you're stopping over? Are they taking care of the property? Because if they're not, guess what's going to happen? Next year when they move out, you have an unexpected $5,000 to $10,000 repair bill coming your way. Again, shit happens. I want to tell everybody a story that happened to me about, it's probably 30 years ago, in the early 90s. Here in the contracting part of our company, we have software that tracks the man-hour profit. Now, the man-hour profit is based on payroll and materials to each job. It doesn't include rent, truck payments, insurance, your basic overhead, the advertising. So let's say we're projecting our man hour at $16 an hour. Okay, how do I get $16 an hour as a man hour profit back in 92? Well, I pay my guys plus the taxes. Let's say they're with taxes, workers' comp, everything, vacation pay built in. Each employee is making roughly $15, $16 an hour. And we're billing out at $32 an hour, or maybe a little bit more. Okay, so if we finish the job on time and the materials are what they are, I'm going to make $16 an hour, right? Okay, so I hope everybody maybe take out a pen for this one. So $16 an hour is the projected man-hour profit, and this is back in 92. Now, we're billing 40,000 hours a year. So our gross profit is 40,000 hours times 16, right? Mm-hmm. So that is 640,000 gross profit. And our overhead is 440,000, which means we should have a profit in the bank of close to 200,000, right? Okay. Now, what happens if the man hour for the whole year ends up being $11 or $10, right? In reality.
You lost 50.
So I lost $5 times 40,000, right? That's $200,000. And if it goes below 11 to 10, guess what? You end up in the bank end of year with $10,000 in the bank. And that's exactly what happened in 92. Here, stupid me was thinking, our man hour is this, our man hour is that, our man hour is this. Hey, we're doing fine. We're doing fine. We're doing fine. Well, I made one major mistake. We had a job called 300. Job 300. Now, people that have been with the company a long time remember the legendary Job 300. Now, guess what that did? Well, thanks to my controller, who in reality wasn't much of a controller, if a job was going over hours, we try to make it up on the next job. We throw that overage of hours into Job 300. Okay, yeah, we were 10 hours over. We're 20 hours over. Okay, put it in Job 300. Well, now we're on time, right? We just took care of those 20 hours. Now we're on time. Now we're showing 16. Okay, now I hope everybody's staying with me here in the car or just doing the
On your walk.
on your walk. What happens if you never take care of Job 300? And those 10 hours, 15 hours, 20 hours, 5 hours, they're all legitimate excuses. What happens if it never gets taken care of? It's just sitting there. Well, that is like a dead weight on the man-hour profit. It's going to sink it. Throw it in the water, all of a sudden it goes from 16 to voila, $11 an hour. And that's exactly what happened back in 92, which I should mention is when I had a nervous breakdown in 92 because I didn't know where the money went and I didn't have a big credit line. And I'm looking at January. Now, you are at a crossroads here with your business, your properties. Same thing applies to properties too. You're at a crossroads here. You either realize what just happened. Where is the hole in the boat? Where is the rock that's sitting on your man-hour profit? And it took me a couple months in the winter, the dead of winter, to realize what was happening in real time because I heard somebody whining about a job that was over hours and they were ready to assign it to Job 300. And I had that aha moment. All of a sudden, I said, no way. No way. You are going to have to eat this job. And guess what? There's no bonus for you on this job because you didn't finish it on time.
Oh, yeah. I remember we had that.
Right?
Each job had a bonus.
Each job had a bonus. No bonus. It's over hours. And of course, that was like dropping a meteor on a lake. All of a sudden, there was a tidal wave coming in of complaints, this and that. Well, guess what? We better get our shit together on the estimate, but more importantly, on the execution of the job. So when you look at a job that now is stinking up the profit sheet for the week, you start doing a deep dive on that job. And you start seeing that, wow, that guy made 5 trips to the store every day for a week. Okay? That's 5 trips, 1 hour, 5 hours times 5 days. That's 25 hours. And guess how many hours the person's over? 20 hours. It's a pretty simple fix, right? So I go up to the foreman, I say, you go to the store more than 1 trip a day, I'm not paying you. for that time. All of a sudden, some jobs got done. So the long and short of it was that year, 1993, we were actually looking throughout the year at real man-hour profits, right? Real man-hour profits. So instead of 11, as we're cracking the whip on efficiencies every week, we ended up with not 16, but 15. We still had 40,000 billable hours. Budget was the same. Overhead was the same. And guess how much I had in the bank at the end of the year? $150,000, not $10,000. It is amazing what happens when you stay on course every week. I used another example, which is you take a boat, sailboat, you leave New York, you're going to London, across the Atlantic Ocean. What happens if you're 1 degree off? 1 little degree off, like you're only 5 or 10 hours over on a job. Well, guess where you end up? In Spain, not in London, right? Sometimes you may end up in Africa. You know, and the wild man of Borneo's there. He's ready to eat you up. That's how bad it is. You shipwreck because you don't know where you are. So I want everybody to stop before I turn this back over to Brooke for comment and ask yourself, do you know where you are in this journey? And ask yourself, what did you actually have a goal as to what you were going to finish with in the bank at the end of the year? A, if you didn't have a goal, which I think most people wouldn't, they don't even know how to spell goal, let alone have one. But let's say you said at the end of the year, I'm going to have 20,000 in the bank or 50,000 in the bank from my business. And if you don't hit that, then you start asking why. And that is where change and growth and maturity as a business or property owner comes from. Your thoughts, Brooke?
Hey, let's stop here. We got to pay some bills. 30 seconds, and we'll be back.
If you enjoy listening to our Small Business Confidential podcast, we're sure you'll enjoy our first podcast, The Cleveland Real Estate Investor. We give outside investors an inside look into the real estate market in Cleveland. Cleveland has been on the rise, and investors from all over see those cheap prices and salivate. Our job is to educate those investors and steer them in the right direction with several years of experience of how to do it right and many examples of how to do it wrong. Find the Cleveland Real Estate Investor podcast on any app you listen to your podcast today.
Well, it's a little, I can't imagine doing that now. I know one thing that we've really started to institute, at least the past 3 or 4 years, is doing our dashboard talk on Tuesday. And dashboard for our listeners means it's my day on Tuesday mornings, afternoons, where I'm looking at all of our costs from last week, our payroll, what was charged to our non-billables, i.e. our office and our warehouse, what was charged to our properties, what was charged to our billable jobs, to our customers. I'm looking at our overhead categories. I'm looking at our monthly averages for our bonus. I'm looking at our surcharge. So it's a process that now is just kind of locked in. I just know on Tuesdays, it's my day to do all that work. And so there really shouldn't be any surprises come the end of the year, especially for certain sections like our non-billables and our overhead. Basically all of the bills that we pay as a company. The one kind of wild card is always, I think, our profit study, just in terms of our billable jobs. But even then, that's been, I think, getting tightened up, each month. It's kind of hard though sometimes for us, or at least for me, and I know we've gone back and forth on this, where we kind of have jobs that are like job 300, but they're jobs that for houses that we've sold. Like, I don't know if we want to get into specifics.
Well, let's not get too deep in the weeds. I think, Brooke, one of the things we do have some jobs where we got to keep their we call them yellow flags jobs, where let's say our guy is going out and doing an estimate. We don't have the job yet, but he's going out to do an estimate. I got to pay for his time. And so he may spend during a week, maybe 4 hours, 5 hours doing like 2 estimates. Now we'll take those 5 hours and we won't put them into job 300, which got blew up a long time ago, but we'll put it into what's called a buffer. Now here's the key. The job 300 rule still applies. We're not going to let that buffer go unattended. That buffer is getting cleared out. The second thing, and this is very important, I'm not sending somebody out on an estimate unless that estimate has been vetted. Same thing goes like if you have a property, the biggest single thing you have to do for a property rental is to do a thorough check on the person who's renting it from you. Is it speculative? And I can tell you one little tip. I'm going to give this away. Usually I charge for this on my consulting time. This is a freebie. If they said their credit needs work, you don't want to rent to that person. No way. Because they'll get more specific. If they can't even cover their cable bill, their cell phone bill, you know where you are on getting paid. You'll probably be the number one person
For a couple months.
Yeah, for a couple months. Because, they'll just string you along with excuses. The violin will be playing in the background. So if somebody says, well, my credit needs work, well, that doesn't work for me. That is what we say in a nice way. You have to make sure that you have tracking systems in place every week. Every week you're looking at the number. For properties, every week that's not rented is a week that's lost. Now, obviously, for our model, we're not expecting 12-month occupancy. It's short term. But if we're going to be shooting for a goal of 50,000 for this particular property, then we're either getting 8 months at a little over 6,000, right? Okay. Or 10 months at 5.
Yeah.
Now, if we're in month 6 in the middle of June, and we've only have 20,000 booked up until June, and we have another 30 to go, well, we've got 6 months left, and we have better get all 6 months to those filled at 5,000, or we got to say to ourselves, I don't think I'm going to hit my goal. But you know that you're a little bit off course, or you know that there's a potential for delay. Now, as each month goes by and you're not getting it occupied at the price you need, and you're not looking at 50,000, but now you're looking at 30,000 revenues, you better ask yourself, what am I doing wrong?
Right.
Or should I sell this property? But building that awareness of where you are on your journey is creating new solutions to get you there. Okay? Think about earlier when I was talking about Job 300 and guys were starting to whine and make excuses of why the job was over hours. We discovered early on that week why the job was over hours. And in some cases, I would start going literally out to the job and watch how these guys were working. Were they taking long lunch breaks? Were they quitting at 4:30 instead of 6? There's always a reason there. Now, if you're going to be the man, the woman, the person in charge, you have to know what is happening when it is happening in order to make the changes you made to make that end of year goal. Final thoughts, Brooke?
I think one other thing too is if you have a goal, let's say to make 50,000, don't just look at the revenue that's coming in. Look at what your expenses are. Maybe you shouldn't spend $400 a month on the fanciest landscaping company. Hire, a neighbor's kid. So it's like you're looking at all of your costs.
That's a good point.
Like, I'm a huge believer, in the first bill you should pay is your savings account, where you kind of have it. And for me, it's just every 2 weeks or every week, because I get paid one week, my wife gets paid the other week. In my bank, it's just automatically deducted, moved into a savings account. So another way to make more money is to save more money. So look at all of your costs. Should you really buy some? Like, I had a friend who had an Airbnb in downtown, and she was dropping money at Crate and Barrel for dining room tables and
Scented soaps.
it's like, and she's like, yeah, I'm really not making a whole lot. And it's like, you could have saved like 20 grand by going to Facebook Marketplace or going to Target and
Hotel liquidators.
yeah. So it's like, you're looking at it, in a full circle. So that would just be my final thought.
Right. My final thought is this. Unless you're a trust fund baby, unless you're somebody who's just, hey, I'm going to get into real estate, or I'm going to start my own restaurant, or I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, and you're not thinking about, are you making money or not? You're an amateur. This is a hobby. Because a professional, it's all about the money. I don't care what you're doing. You're a consultant, you're a lawyer, you're a photographer, you're a garbage collector, whatever. Are you making what you need to make to pay your bills? And you're a professional about it. And I see too many people who stumble into something because it just sounds good. Oh, I'm going to get some houses. I'm going to be a landlord. Or I'm going to the Culinary Institute. I'm going to be a chef. Or I'm going to, you know what? I don't hear anybody say I want to be a garbage man. I'm going to garbage man school because I want to learn how to collect garbage the right way. No, it's about making money. That is a professional. So in order to make money, you need to spend some time, or you need to get people. Don't go to college for this. They're not going to tell you how to make money. You need to surround yourself with mentors or people, or hire us as your consultant. Here's a little pitch for our business. And we'll teach you, we'll walk you through. We'll be your fitness instructor in terms of your making money. And it won't be pleasant because we're gonna see, scented soaps, Crate and Barrel. Guess what, fatso? That's your chocolate cake that you're eating. And you're trying to get in shape. You're trying to lose that fat ass or that belly. Okay? Well, our team, our consulting team, is going to take you apart and watch everything you do, what you're putting in your mouth. And every now and then we're going to get the cattle prod out, and we're going to get your fat ass out of the chair and start putting the earbuds on and start getting your steps in. And then at 5 o'clock, we're going to say, all right, have you done your journal? Have you done your budget? No, you're not leaving. You're not leaving McFly. You're sticking around and you're doing and then you're going to work out, fatso. So we're going to get you lean and trim in terms of your business. And you're going to look at your bank balance. You're going to say, oh, wow. Now I've got some money in the bank. Well, excuse the English, earmuffs for those who don't like F-bombs. But I'm going to say, now you got some fuck you money in the bank. And what that means is you have the ability to say no to some shady tenant because you're desperate to have somebody in there. Or you may say no to some customer. Hey, I don't want to work for this guy. He seems kind of creepy, But you need money in the bank to have that independence. Not go running to your trust fund or running to mom and dad to bail you out. So on that happy note, I want you to all go to your bank account, go to your journal, look at it and say, did I hit my target or not? And if you didn't, start another page in your journal. Start asking why and what just happened here. Because this is the time to set the table for the New Year's resolutions. And we'll end on that note. Thanks, Brooke.
All right.
Thank you for listening to the Small Business Confidential. To support, please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Also add our podcast to your favorite streaming services. Everything is appreciated, and we'll be back soon with another episode and upload schedule. The person voicing the intro's name is Travis Reilly. Thank you, Travis. And the music was done by our engineer, me, Amari.